Good morning and welcome. Before we begin our service, let us take a moment to share in our stone ritual. I place a stone for our joys. One for our sorrows. And one for our intentions for the coming week.
Welcome to the virtual Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa. My name is Ed Benedict, and I am your worship associate for the day. I'm glad to have you here with us today, whether you're a seeker of religious truths, a longtime friend of the church, or an active member, or just someone checking us out on the internet on this Sunday. We hope that our service will have something of value to offer you, that it might brighten your day, energize your week, or give you at least time to pause and think.
So you thought you had to keep this up, all the work that you do, so we think that you are good, and you can't believe it's not enough. All these walls you build up are just glass on the outside, so let them fall down. There's freedom waiting in the sound, when you let your walls fall to the ground. We're here now. This is where the healing begins. This is where the healing starts. When you come to where you're broken within, and the light meets the dark. The light meets the dark. Afraid to let your secrets out. Everything that you hide could come crashing through the door now, but too scared to face all your fears. So you hide, but you find that the shame won't disappear. So let them fall down. There's freedom waiting in the sound, when you let your walls fall to the ground. We're here now. This is where the healing begins. This is where the healing starts. When you come to where you're broken within, the light meets the dark. The light meets the dark.
Our chalice lighting for today comes from Maureen Killeron. Welcome, you who come in need of healing, you who are confused or have been betrayed. Welcome with your problems and your pain. Welcome to your joys and your wonderings. Welcome to your need to hope and your longing for assurance. Instead of answers, Here may you find safety for your questions. Instead of promises, may you find community for your struggles. People with hands and hearts to join you in engaging the challenges and changes of our day.
The congregation will be holding its annual budget meeting on Sunday, December 6th at 12 noon on Zoom. Members will receive an email with the meeting link, which is also posted on the calendar page of the website. Please make time to join us. In community, the Board of Directors.
Okay, everyone, let's sing number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Hello, my name is Erin Powers, and I am the Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa. And today's story is called The Cure by the Reverend Christopher Busey. Once upon a time, there was a young girl named Maggie who found out she had a very terrible disease and would probably never be well again. She was very, very sad. And although she had many friends, all of them were afraid to visit her because they feared they might catch the disease. So the little girl sat in her bed all by herself and was very lonely. One day, she heard a knock on her door. "Come in," she said, and in walked 3 of her friends. One was a doctor, one was a minister, and one was a magician. Maggie was very glad to see them, for no one else had been brave enough to visit her. "Hello, Maggie," her friends said as they sat down around her bed. "We came to tell you something. Each of us is going to try and find a cure for your disease." "Yes," said the doctor. "I'm going to go into my laboratory and do experiments until I discover a medicine that will cure your disease." "And I," said the minister, "am going to pray every day that you will be healed of this terrible disease." "And I," said the magician, "am going to look through my books of magic until I discover a potion or a spell that will rid you of your disease." Maggie smiled and was happy because she saw how much her friends cared for her. "Thanks," she said. "We're sorry we can't stay long to visit," said her friends. but we must rush off and begin our search for a cure. We'll return in 3 days, and surely by then, one of us will have found a cure for your disease." And so her friends went away in search of a cure. And once again, Maggie was very lonely. For 3 days, Maggie's friends did everything they could to find a cure for her disease. The doctor worked hard in the laboratory, but couldn't discover any medicine that would help the little girl. The minister prayed every day and every night that Maggie would be healed of her disease, but the little girl was still sick. The magician looked through all the magic books, but there were no spells or potions that could cure Maggie's disease. All 3 of Maggie's friends were very sad, for they felt that they had failed. After 3 days were over, the doctor, the minister, and the magician returned to Maggie's house and told her the bad news. "We're sorry," they said, "but we couldn't find a cure. We did our best." And the 3 friends began to cry. "Don't cry," said Maggie. "Before I was sick, I had many friends, but now they're all afraid to visit me. The disease I have is a terrible one, but it's nothing compared to the loneliness I've felt these last few days. I now know loneliness is the worst disease of all. Right now, the medicine I need most is your friendship. The prayer I need most is for you to simply be with me. And the magic I need most is your love." And so the doctor, the minister, and the magician gathered around the little girl and laid their hands upon her. In the silence that followed, it is said they found the cure. And in these days, when we are still searching for a cure, let us not forget that we have the power to cure loneliness. Together, we can heal each other's hearts.
These words from meditation are from Nathan C. Walker. Breathe in. I am aware of my pain. Breathe out. I am aware that I am not my pain. Breathe in. I am aware of my past. Breathe out. I am aware I am not my past. Breathe in. I am aware of my anger. Breathe out. I am aware I am not anger. Breathe in. I am aware of my despair. Breathe out. I am aware that I am not my despair. Breathe in. I am aware of peace. Breathing out. I am aware that I am worthy of peace. Breathe in. I am aware of love. Breathing out, I am aware that I am worthy of love. Breathing in, I am aware of joy. Breathing out, I am aware of I am an agent of joy. Breathing in, I'm aware of hope. Breathing out, I'm aware that I am an agent of hope.
Hello, everyone. Now we're going to sing number 352, Find a Stillness. Find a stillness, hold the stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Our speaker today is Doris Ryan, a member of our congregation. She has provided us some biographical information about herself that you may not be aware of. Doris Ryan is a 4/5 time retired psychologist who escaped from the North in 2018. In the early years, she was a middle school English teacher in public and private schools in Shaker Heights, Ohio. Eventually, she gravitated toward talking with people as individuals and groups about the things that immediately concern them. She graduated with a PhD in clinical and community psychology from the University of South Carolina in 1988. Doris has worked in hospitals and outpatient clinics in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Indiana, focusing on clinical supervision, consultation, and development of systems that support people. She's happy to have made her way to Tampa in the Unitarian Universalist Church. Her sermon today is about healing, and she's offered some words of introduction about it. Healing and health have meant different things through the ages. There are things that we do for each other that have healing powers. Much of the time, we are accustomed to dealing with life on our own, in our own minds. This service will look into what we're doing in community to be healing agents for each other, probably without knowing what impact we are having. And now, Doris.
Good morning and welcome again to the UUCT service for the Sunday after Thanksgiving. I hope you've been enjoying a really good holiday full of your favorite foods, family, and friends. I'm Doris Ryan, a mostly retired psychologist and new UUCT member, and I'm going to present some thoughts for you today. I'm going to work my way toward a few ideas about what healing might mean for people in a community such as a church. The precursor of our words for healing emerged sometime between 6,000 and 8,000 years ago. At that time, the meaning of healing, we estimate that it meant something like safe or unharmed. Over the millennia, the concept of healing morphed and drifted into a lot of related meanings. Words such as cure, save, greet, salute, whole, wholesome, even hide and conceal. Even a kind of fish, halibut, and a kind of evergreen shrub, holly. Eventually, religion and psychology got into it with words like holy and other words that meant freedom from guilt. With those last two, we can see that the idea of healing got extended to mental and spiritual states, such as a state of grace or a clear state of mind. Now, the act of creating words has good and bad consequences. One of the good consequences is that it helps us define things and map out relationships between things. You can see this happening a lot with small children from the time that they can learn to talk, sort of up through elementary school. They're trying to learn how everything's organized together. So they'll be learning categories and they'll learn names within the categories like colors, red, blue, green, animals, dog, turkey, cat. And those ideas can sometimes get pretty rigid. That's the downside of naming things. Words can turn ideas to stone so that it's hard to soften and change the ideas behind them when you need to. Early people's concept of health may have been limited to what they could see. You could see if somebody had a broken leg, or if they were limping, or they had a fever, or they were sick in some way. If they got better, it was God's will, or it was a miracle of some type, or maybe even it was witchcraft. Healing was something that happened because of mysterious and unknowable forces. What if we think instead about what we know now, about how healing happens, to start with physically? One thing we know is that healing is always happening, whether we help it or not. Having lived in Indiana a while before I came to Florida, I remember when Peyton Manning, famous Indiana person, not a Colorado person, said to a kid who had a cut, rub some dirt on it. Usually what we would do instead is clean and protect the cut and wait for those mysterious forces in our bodies to work their magic. Here's another way to think about healing, that it's a process that's trying to return us to a desirable state, even if everything is okay to start with. From this viewpoint, it's a process of self-regulation. Right this second, our bodies are doing countless things to keep us functioning in an acceptable range. Every time we take a breath, our blood pressure goes down and our heart rate goes up. Every time we exhale, the opposite happens. Every night, our brain spends some time trimming off cells and neurons and connections that we're not using so much anymore, and strengthens some connections that we seem to be using more than we did in the past. Right at this moment, our bodies are trying to bring us back into a good range after we didn't drink enough water yesterday, or maybe didn't get enough sleep last night. There's a process of balance. Sometimes I call it a thermostat, or I think of it as having a thermostat function. It works in thousands of tiny ways to restore us to a range of conditions that all together get summarized as health. Healing is a constant activity. Back at the beginning, when we were babies, we couldn't do anything to help it intentionally. We couldn't keep ourselves the right temperature. We couldn't feed ourselves. We couldn't put ourselves to bed when we were sleepy. What I'm going to say next is a pretty important point, and it goes back to the sometimes deceptive illusion created by words. That image of the baby doesn't help me think about an important reality. It was stated extremely well by a guy named D.W. Winnicott, who was an English pediatrician and psychoanalyst, who said a famous line, "There is no such thing as just a baby." There is no such thing as just a baby. If you happen to see a baby out by itself tootling along, either something miraculous has happened or something really horrible is going on. We need a new word, a new name for the baby and the caretaker, who are inseparable, because the caretaker for a long time continues to be a part of the baby's body and mind. The caretakers supply essential functions for the child. They provide life support, they substitute what they can do for what the baby can do, and for the baby's inability to care for itself. I've started with these physical examples because maybe it's a good place to start when I want to extend what's going on in people's minds and hearts, because there's a similar process happening. What helps our hearts and minds stay within a healthy range? We don't start off by ourselves on this either. We depend on the big people to give us pieces of their minds and hearts when we are small. Gradually over time, we take on the feeling and thinking functions for ourselves. The main process is that one person uses their mind to take in, understand, rework, and give back to the other person something that they can use. There are fancy names for this process, but maybe a pretty accessible one to start with is that we could call it transformation of experience. Here's an example that was given to me by a client that I had years ago. He was around 4 years old, and it was around Halloween time, and one of his relatives brought him a little superhero costume. That was his favorite costume. When they put it on him, he was really happy to start with, but then he started crying. Some of the relatives were looking at him and kind of exasperated that he was making a fuss. Another relative looked at him and said, "Maybe this costume is uncomfortable and itchy." That was transformation of his experience, done well and not so well. Both relatives took in his reaction and used the understanding created by their hearts and minds to assign it meaning, and then they reflected it back to him. One reaction helped him feel enriched, helped him respect and understand his reactions, helped him learn how to self-regulate. The other pushed him toward hiding and not respecting his experience. If things go well, we build up a sense of ourselves from the gifts of these tiny tidbits of others' minds and hearts presented when we need them over time. If things go well, over time we develop the ability to take over a lot of the self-regulation ourselves. If you look at ways to cope with challenges and emotions, our Western culture seems to prioritize means of self-regulation and healing that emphasize self-sufficiency. We write in our journals, we meditate, take walks, listen to music, pray, think things over. We're pushed toward being independent. There's really nothing at all wrong with these activities. In fact, oftentimes using them resets our thermostats to take some time out from all the noise and busyness of our lives, but just to bring in a little balance. Not every culture pushes so hard toward independence. Many cultures leave more room for people to cope with challenges in their lives by depending on other people for self-regulation. We may not pay attention to it, but actually, in countless ways, without knowing it, under the radar, we are always accessing and borrowing little pieces of others' hearts and minds all the time. Here's an example. Even some things that we have reservations about. People complain a lot and criticize and say, where's our society going? But they might be helping us with self-regulation. If you take a look at the folks who spend all day texting and tweeting their reactions to one another in real time, I suspect that they are coping with the challenges of the day by keeping others' hearts and minds present with them, moment by moment. Maybe our newfangled means of communication are an enhancement of our connections, not merely an unfortunate replacement for what we might consider deeper or more meaningful connections. Here's an experiment to try. Spend some time reimagining all the calls, emails, tweets, texts, and greetings that come your way as someone's effort to enlist your help, understanding, and healing by contact with your heart and mind. To go a step further, try reimagining someone who is angry or scared and who expresses it to you or others as someone who is trying to access the healing effect of others' minds and hearts in an effort to transform their own experience. I think a church is a good way people can gain access to others' abilities to take in experience and give it back in a form that is enriching and healing. We can see how UUCT has worked to keep us in contact with one another and maintain our ability to provide moments of healing influence through Zoom services, so many ways, coffee hours, special meetings, small group ministry events, social times each day. When I think about small group ministry, for instance, I think it's only partly about discussing a topic. The topic is the vehicle. Instead, it can be a healing time for people to be present with one another's experience. As a matter of fact, all experiences in a church are reflections of people's minds and hearts that transform our experience, whether it's the music, the hymns, the physical space, the readings and prayers, stories, or sermons. The process of healing in a community doesn't work perfectly. Sometimes the others don't get it, or they're tired or distracted right then, or what we are saying is outside the realm of their experience, or they're confused, or they get mad, or they feel hurt. Partly we may learn to rely on our independence because sometimes we can't find a way to rely on one another. We may value interdependence. In fact, there it is on our seventh principle, the interdependent web of all existence. But no one shows us how to do interdependence, especially when things aren't working well. It's like having a cut in the days before people knew anything about germs. Maybe they rubbed some dirt on it, and who knows how well that worked. So one important component of healing in a community is knowing that you are doing it simply by the presence of your mind and heart. When you are aware you are doing something, you have an opportunity to do it more thoughtfully and intentionally. Another important component of healing in a community is knowing how to repair things when they go wrong. In my business, there's a saying that comes up occasionally. Here it is. It often isn't as important what you say as what you say next. The idea being that you can mess up, not hear, misunderstand, but you stay near. You keep listening and you stay willing. That's probably the most important part, the willingness to repair a misunderstanding or rupture. I'm going to close with a brief passage from a book that many of my clients have liked. The name of the book is The Emotionally Absent Mother, and it's by Jasmine Lee Corey. Jasmine is giving an example of a time she had an argument with somebody. My frustration finally burst out. My next thought was that I could now kiss our relationship goodbye. The relationship, however, was not ruined. In fact, it was strengthened. I had no reference. I had no previous experience to tell me this could be so. Relationships are not without problems, but these problems can be fixed rather than swept under the rug where they can build into huge mounds. Conflicts are resolved, and we can rely on the competent people around us to problem solve a variety of needs. People need to know there can be times of angry feelings and falling out, but these ruptures can be repaired. Repairing ruptures in relationships again and again and again and again is a part of securing the bond and creating a sense of resilience. This applies to any significant relationship. We need to know that the other person can manage the upsetting feelings that come with such ruptures and won't go away, and that together we will fix it.
The UUCT care team follows up with congregants who are experiencing joys or sorrows. The care team also addresses needs of congregants. The care team can be contacted by email at careteam@uutampa.org. To support the UUCT with your generous financial gifts, please go to the UUCT website and click on the Click Here link to donate. It will take you to our donation page, and you can securely make your donation to the church. Thank you.
Peace is a rolling sea, so full of mystery. I feel its harmony in ebb and crest. Peace is a work of art that moves the open heart. Peace is a place to start and final rest. Harmony of harmony, I hear you sing to me. Let it wash over me, let it begin. Harmony of harmony, unfolding melody, I am your instrument. Let peace begin with me. Peace is a beacon bright that brings us inner sight, a radiating light, conquering fear. Peace is the wild bird's call, the painted leaves in fall. Peace is the health of all, I feel it here. Harmony of harmony, I hear you sing to me. Let it wash over me, let it begin. Harmony of harmony, unfolding melody, I am your instrument. Let peace begin with me. Peace is a field of grain, 'neath sun and gentle rain, in nature's glad refrain of love begun. All beings' songs are sung as bells together rung. Peace speaks in every tongue. All songs are one. Harmony of harmony, I hear you sing to me. Let it wash over me, let it begin. Harmony of harmony, unfolding melody. I am your instrument. Let peace begin with me.
I extinguish our chalice today with these words from Darcy Rock. There are too much hardship in the world to not find joy every day. There is too much injustice in the world to not right the balance every day. There is too much pain in the world to not heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of divine presence every day.
Our next hymn will be number 348 in the hymnal, Guide My Feet. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Race in vain. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain.
Thank you for joining us today and in this time of seasonal Thanksgiving. Go now in peace. Stay positive. Be nice to one another. Namaste.